There's a room inside you, a room you don't talk about, a room you've kept locked for years. You know it's there. You feel it when you're alone, when the noise dies down, when no one's around to distract you. It's the place where you bury the parts of yourself you don't want to face, the anger, the jealousy, the guilt, the shame. And every time you lock the door, you tell yourself, it's fine. That's not me. I've moved on. But here's the truth. You haven't moved on. You've just moved it deeper. Your shadow doesn't disappear just because you pretend it's not there. It shows up in ways you don't expect. It's in the way you snap at someone for no reason, the way you get jealous even though you don't want to, the way you push people away when they get too close. You tell yourself, I'm just tired, I'm just stressed, it's just how I am. But deep down, you know it's more than that. Your shadow is running your life in the background, like an invisible hand steering the wheel. And until you face it, you'll keep repeating the same cycles. Think about it. Why do you keep ending up in the same kind of relationships? Why do you fall into the same arguments? Why do you self-sabotage when things finally start going well? It's not random. It's not bad luck. It's not even about the other people. It's about the part of you that still hasn't healed. The part of you that believes, I'm not enough. I don't deserve love. I have to earn my worth. And until you face that part, life will keep handing you mirrors, situations, people, challenges, not to punish you, but to wake you up. Here's why. Most people never do shadow work because it feels terrifying. Looking at your shadow is like staring into a mirror you've avoided your whole life. You're afraid of what you'll see. What if it confirms your worst fears? What if it proves you really are broken? What if it shows you the parts you've tried so hard to hide? So instead, you run, you scroll, you distract, you bury yourself in work, you search for validation from others, anything to avoid that locked room inside you. But here's the paradox. The more you run, the stronger your shadow becomes. Because shadows feed on avoidance. They grow in silence. They thrive in the dark. And every time you refuse to face it, it digs deeper roots. It whispers louder in your thoughts. It leaks out in your behavior. Until one day, you realize you're not running from the shadow. You're running from yourself. Here's the shift. Your shadow is not here to destroy you. It's here to free you. Every trigger, every wound, every insecurity, they're not punishments. They're invitations. Invitations to turn inward, to see the parts of yourself you've abandoned, to finally stop rejecting yourself, because you cannot heal what you refuse to feel. You cannot love yourself if you only love the polished parts. Real wholeness means embracing even the mess. Think about the last time you felt jealous. You hated that feeling, didn't you? You told yourself, I shouldn't feel this way. I should be happy for them. But jealousy isn't there to shame you. It's there to point to a place inside that feels lacking, a place that longs for something you've denied yourself. The shadow doesn't speak in words. It speaks in emotions. And those emotions are not problems to fix. They're messages to listen to. Shadow work asks you to do something radical, to stop running, to turn around, and to look at the very thing you've been afraid of your whole life. It feels like standing at the edge of a cliff, like if you face it, you'll fall apart. But the truth, you won't fall apart. You'll fall open, and in that opening, you'll finally find freedom. If this resonates with you, if you've ever felt like you're fighting battles inside that no one else can see, hit that like button so I know this is speaking to you. And don't forget to subscribe, because in the next parts of this journey, we're going to go even deeper into how to actually do shadow work. Every day, you put on a mask. Maybe it's the mask of I'm fine. Maybe it's the mask of I've got it all together. Maybe it's the mask of I don't care. But deep down, you do care. Deep down, you're not fine. Deep down, you don't have it all together. And it's exhausting, isn't it? Waking up every day, performing the same role, hoping no one notices what's really going on inside. The shadow work begins when you admit the mask is heavy, and you're tired of carrying it. There's a voice inside you. It doesn't scream. It doesn't demand. It whispers. But you've been ignoring it for years. It's the voice that says, I don't feel loved here. This doesn't feel right. I deserve more than this. And every time you silence it, you silence yourself. You call it weakness. You call it overreacting. You call it being too sensitive. But that voice, that's the part of you begging to be seen, begging to be heard, begging to come back home. Here's a hard truth. The people who trigger you are not your enemies. They're your mirrors. When someone gets under your skin, they're showing you the wound you still haven't healed. When someone makes you furious, they're holding up a mirror to the anger you've buried. When someone makes you insecure, they're reflecting the part of you that still feels unworthy. Shadow work means taking that mirror and asking, what is this showing me about myself? Not to blame yourself, not to shame yourself, but to finally understand yourself. Think about the last time someone criticized you. It stung, didn't it? Even if you told yourself, I don't care what they think. But deep down, you did care, because their words tapped into something you already feared was true. That's why it hurt so much. Not because of what they said, but because a part of you already believed it. And until you face that belief, every criticism will cut like a knife. At the core of many shadows is this wound. I am not enough. Not smart enough. Not attractive enough. Not successful enough. Not worthy enough. It shows up in subtle ways. You say yes when you want to say no. You stay silent when you want to speak. You accept less than you deserve because you're afraid of losing even that. But shadow work asks you to pause, to notice those moments, and to ask, whose voice is this? Because that belief didn't start with you. It was planted there by parents, teachers, society, culture, and you've been carrying it ever since. The shadow is made up of the parts of you you've exiled, the anger you weren't allowed to feel, the tears you weren't allowed to cry, the dreams you were told were unrealistic. But what if, instead of exiling them, you welcome them back? What if you told your anger, you're safe here? What if you told your sadness, I see you? What if you told your younger self, you're not too much, you never were? Because shadow work is not about destroying the shadow. It's about reintegrating it, bringing it back into the light, so you can finally feel whole. Here's the thing most people don't realize. Your shadow doesn't just affect you. It affects your relationships. It affects your choices. It affects your future. Every time you reject a part of yourself, you project it onto someone else. You blame them for what you won't face in yourself. You resent them for what you've denied in yourself. You judge them for the very thing you secretly carry inside. And that's why shadow work matters. Because the more you integrate your shadow, the less power it has over your life. Shadow work isn't about becoming perfect. It's not about erasing every wound, every flaw, every scar. It's about learning to walk into that locked room inside you and realizing it's not as terrifying as you thought. Yes, it's dark in there. Yes, it's messy. Yes, it's uncomfortable. But in that darkness, there's light. In that mess, there's wisdom. In that discomfort, there's freedom. Because when you face your shadow, you don't just find the parts you're ashamed of. You also find the strength you didn't know you had, the creativity you buried, the authenticity you silenced. Your shadow isn't just your pain, it's also your power. Take a breath right now. Really inhale, exhale, and ask yourself, what part of me have I been avoiding? If something just came to mind, drop a comment below, even if it's just one word, because naming your shadow is the first step to owning it. And if this is resonating, hit that subscribe button. Shadow work begins with a question, not a big, complicated one, not something you need a therapist or a book to hand you. It's simple. What am I really feeling right now? Not what you should feel, not what you're pretending to feel, but what's truly stirring inside. That's where it starts, not with answers, with honesty. You cannot heal what you will not see. That's why awareness is the first step. The next time you feel triggered, don't rush past it. Pause, notice, say to yourself, something in me just got activated. Something in me is asking to be felt. Awareness doesn't fix it, but awareness shines a light on it, and that light is what begins the work. Your shadow hides in vagueness. It whispers, you're just upset, you're just tired, you're just stressed, but the truth is sharper than that. The shadow wants you to blur it, but healing asks you to name it. I feel jealous. I feel unworthy. I feel abandoned. I feel angry. Naming doesn't make it bigger. Naming makes it real, and only the real can be healed. Every shadow has a root, and most of the time, that root goes back further than you think. Maybe the jealousy didn't start with your partner. Maybe it started the first time your parent compared you to someone else. Maybe the anger didn't start with traffic. Maybe it started the first time you were told to be quiet. Shadow work invites you to ask, where did I first learn this story? Because once you see the origin, the weight begins to lift. Here's the part no one likes. The part we all avoid. Sitting with the feeling, not fixing it, not running from it, not numbing it with scrolling, or shopping, or staying busy. Just sitting, letting the sadness wash over you, letting the anger move through your body, letting the fear rise, and noticing it doesn't destroy you. This is the sacred moment. This is where transformation happens. Because every time you sit with a feeling, instead of running from it, you reclaim a piece of yourself. It may sound strange, but try this. Talk to your shadow. Close your eyes. Picture that part of you. Maybe it's younger. Maybe it's wounded. Maybe it's just tired. And ask, what do you need from me? You might be surprised by what you hear. I need you to stop abandoning me. I need you to rest. I need you to admit you're hurt. The shadow doesn't want to ruin you. It wants to rejoin you. Integration means this. You stop pretending you're your only light, and you start embracing that you're both. You are joy and sorrow, confidence and doubt, strength and fragility. When you integrate your shadow, you don't let it control you, but you don't exile it either. You carry it with compassion. You say, you're part of me, and I will no longer leave you behind. Here's something simple you can do before bed tonight. Take a journal. Write one sentence. The part of me I don't want to admit is, and finish it. Without censoring, without judging. Maybe it's, the part of me I don't want to admit is jealous of my friend's success. The part of me I don't want to admit is scared of being alone. The part of me I don't want to admit is angry at my parents. That sentence is your entry point. That sentence is the door to the shadow. Walk through it. Most people will spend their whole lives avoiding this. They'll distract. They'll deny. They'll numb. Because it's easier to fight with the world than to face yourself. But if you're here, listening, reflecting, nodding along, it means you're ready. Ready to stop running. Ready to stop hiding. Ready to meet yourself where you truly are. And that's what shadow work is. Not a trendy word, not a spiritual trick, but the bravery of saying, I'm willing to face what I've been afraid of. So here's my question for you. If you were truly honest with yourself, what's one shadow you've been avoiding? Drop it in the comments, or write it in your journal if it feels too private. because naming it is the first step to transforming it. And if this is opening something inside you, hit like so more people can find this video, and subscribe, because in the final part, we'll talk about the gifts of shadow work. What happens when you stop running and finally step into wholeness? Here's the truth no one tells you. Your shadow is not just pain, it's potential. Inside the parts you've been avoiding are the strengths you've been searching for. The rage you've buried, that's your boundary in disguise. The sadness you've avoided, that's your capacity for compassion. The jealousy you've denied, that's your hunger to create more for yourself. The shadow is not the enemy. It's the raw material of your wholeness. When you face the shadow, you unlock gifts, self-acceptance. You stop needing everyone to like you because you've finally chosen to like yourself, even the messy parts. Freedom. You're no longer driven by old wounds. You act because you choose, not because you're triggered. Depth. You connect more authentically with people because you're no longer performing perfection. Creativity. The energy you once used to suppress yourself becomes fuel to build, to write, to dream. Power. Real power. Not dominance over others, but mastery over yourself. And the greatest gift of all? Peace. Because the war inside ends the moment you embrace both sides of yourself. Wholeness doesn't mean you never feel pain again. It doesn't mean you're always calm or always wise. It means you stop splitting yourself into acceptable and unacceptable. You stop wearing masks to be loved. You stop rejecting the parts of you that only ever wanted to be seen. Wholeness is when you can look in the mirror and say, "This is me, all of me, and I am enough." Shadow work doesn't just change you, it changes how you love. Because when you embrace your own shadow, you stop demanding perfection from others. You can hold space for their flaws because you've made peace with your own. You stop clinging out of fear of abandonment because you've stopped abandoning yourself. You stop falling for the same old patterns because you faced the wound that kept choosing them. Love becomes less about filling a hole and more about sharing your wholeness. Every time a new trigger arises, instead of saying, "Why is this happening to me?" you start asking, "What is this here to teach me?" Anger says, "Here's where your boundaries are." Fear says, "Here's where you need trust." Sadness says, "Here's where your heart still longs to be held." The shadow stops being a burden. It becomes a guide, a compass pointing you home. Think of it like this. Your shadow is the locked basement of your house. For years, you've avoided it. You've kept the door shut. You've decorated the upstairs, pretending everything is fine. But deep down, you've known something lives down there. And the day you finally open the door, you realize it wasn't a monster. It was the forgotten parts of you, covered in dust, yes, but waiting to be welcomed back upstairs. Freedom is not the absence of darkness. It's the courage to walk through it without fear. When you face your shadow, you no longer need to hide. You no longer waste energy pretending. You no longer sabotage your own happiness. Freedom means you wake up and feel at home in your own skin. Not because you're perfect, but because you're real. Here's something to remember. The world doesn't need your perfection. It needs your authenticity. It needs people who have walked through the dark and returned with compassion. It needs voices that say, "Me too. I've been there. I understand." Your shadow work is not just for you. It's for everyone you will touch after you've done it. Because healed people heal people. And every time you embrace your own shadow, you give permission for others to do the same. So let me ask you, what if the part of you you've been most ashamed of is the very part holding your greatest gift? What if the fear you've been running from is actually pointing you toward your power? What if the shadow you've been hiding was never here to ruin you, but to reveal you? Sit with that. Breathe it in. let it echo inside you. If this message touched you, if you felt seen, if you felt called deeper into yourself, don't keep it to yourself. Hit like so this reaches more people who are ready to face their shadows. Subscribe to the channel for more reflections like this, because this is just the beginning of the journey inward. And in the comments, answer this. What part of yourself are you ready to stop hiding? Because your answer might be the spark that gives someone else the courage to face theirs. Shadow work is not easy. It will break you open. It will demand honesty. It will ask you to stand in places you once ran from. But it will also give you back your life, your wholeness, your freedom. And that is worth every step into the dark.